Hello and welcome back. I'm happy to have you here. Happy New Year. This is actually the second episode of the year, but if you are here, welcome. Thank you for listening. We're just going to jump right in. As you might know from the title of this episode, we're talking about the energetics of shifting seasons, years, whatever it is. And I will say this year, when 2022 started, I definitely felt an energy shift. And I know not everyone might have felt that. And for me personally, I haven't always felt that. For a while, I kind of resisted the new year and like resolutions and setting new goals. And I really leaned into like the astrological year or my birthday. And all of those are good. All of those are right. And it really just depends on how things feel for you. And I think that's the most important thing to remind ourselves, especially when like so many people are talking about the new year and the new energy. And if that is resonating with you, I think that is good for you to recognize and to lean into. So I'm also wanting to like give you permission to feel into this and see, okay, what do I feel? What feels resonant for me? Because you might not feel the shift with the new year that everyone else does. So if you aren't feeling that, there's nothing wrong, right? You just got to be honest with what is true for you and what are you feeling. And part of that is only going to come up if you take the time to pay attention, if you take that time to reflect. So I'm really excited to dive into this because I know there's a lot out there right now with energy updates and what does going into a 7-year mean. If you're into numerology, it's just a lot of information. And if that's not resonating for you, but you're still consuming it and you're still like reading it, it might feel like things are getting a little bit cluttered. So I want you to just kind of take inventory of what have I been consuming and have I taken the time to decide if what I'm consuming, what I'm hearing is resonant for me. Because if that energy that may be available to all of us, right? So the energy updates that you might come across online, on YouTube, whatever, wherever you consume, those are very good to listen to if you want to know like what is available, what is out there. And just because it's available and out there doesn't mean you're going to feel it tenfold in your life, because you might be experiencing different dynamics of that energy. So I'm going to get into kind of all the nitty-gritty of that, but if you're feeling, I guess this really came up because I definitely felt it this year, like midnight. I wasn't up at midnight for 2023, but the next day, like I woke up and I felt like I stepped into a different reality. It was this huge shift for me. And I think part of that was because I prepared for that. I really just like welcomed in the new energy of the new year, which I haven't done in several years. As I said before, I kind of resisted like that new year kind of expansion. And so depending on where you're at, you might not have felt that, but I definitely did. And this last year, I really got into numerology, and I feel the shift in numerology with the new year. And some people feel it with their birthday. Some people might not recognize or feel that big shift until like maybe, later in the month. So, or later in the year. So it's really dependent on you. And this all comes down to, using your intuition and also creating that space to reflect. This year is a 7-year in numerology, which is all about spirituality and that inner world and taking that time to reflect. So the thing about energy updates and kind of being aware, okay, like what's available, what's happening in the universe, what's happening with numerology, with astrology, with maybe you are into gene keys or the transits, like whatever it is that you're into, right? Like the reason you're into that is because it's resonant for you. And so follow that. So like if you are into astrology and that's something that you really have connected with, you might not feel a big shift January 1st. It might happen when Aries season starts, right? Because Aries is the beginning of the astrological year. And so it really just depends. And I think now more than ever is the time for you to like clear the clutter of everything else that you might be consuming that you might not even be aware, but like what are you reading? What are you like what kind of posts are you consuming right now? The new year is like filled with goal setting. It's filled with setting new intentions, choosing your new word for the year, all of these things. We just had a full moon. So there was a lot of the full moon energy. Okay. These are all valid things to like consider, but are you taking the time to like digest that information and decide, is this resonant for me? Is this something that I feel that one that I feel and two that is significant for me to maybe shift some things or set different intentions or set new goals, or maybe it's like this energy is calling for me to chill, rest, right? So there's kind of that societal stereotype of New Year's of like, let's go. It's like, I got new goals, I have new goals, and I'm ready to go. Okay, not everyone might be feeling that. And now it's like the message I received over the last few days is like, don't jump on the bandwagon if it's not resonant. And so you won't know if you don't take that time to reflect. I feel like I've said that like 8 times already in this episode. So we're going to get to it. I really wanted to start out and hone in on there's so many energies available to us, right? There's so many updates that you could tune into depending on all the things, right? I listed a few of them earlier. But what matters is what you choose to hold on to. So this is kind of where we want to clear the clutter, because I do listen to a few different energy updates. And I take that and I sit with it. I either meditate with it, I journal on it, I pull cards with it, and I decide what is resonant for me. I get to feel into what I feel, right? Like, so there's all of these energies available, which it doesn't matter the day, the time, the year. Like, yeah, the new year is a big shift, but like it doesn't have to be, because there's all these other energies that you can tap into as well. So it's like what matters most is if you are consuming these energy updates or you're feeling into the energy update yourself, like maybe you are one who takes time to meditate and maybe you are connected with spirit beings and you have these conversations of like, what is the energy available, right? We're still here in our human body able to feel and experience different energies. Even if there's this available over here, you can still turn and choose something over here, right? So it's like taking back that power of like, I want to say like, well, with numerology, we're in a 7-year, which is a spiritual year. Oftentimes, I guess if you're listening to this, you might really dig this kind of energy, but a lot of times people are like, oh, it's kind of a slower year. You got to slow down. You got to take time to reflect. And it really is kind of this discomfort because you're required to turn inward. And so if you know that, it's like, do you use that to empower you, or are you taking this information and you're kind of like resisting it or feel a fear around it? Okay. So like, what are you doing with the information when you receive it? And know, like, because that energy is available, it doesn't mean like it's not predictive energy. So when you listen to energy updates, it's not like saying this is going to happen. Last year was a 6 year, so there was a bunch of relationships and connection energy. And if you were going into that, you might have thought, oh, what's going to happen with my relationships? And it's like, it doesn't mean anything's going to happen with your relationships. It means the energy's available. So listening and consuming, or even connecting with the energy and feeling, okay, this is available. It takes that reflection to say, okay, how am I going to choose to use this energy? How am I going to choose to interact with this energy? So with the 7 year, it's like, I felt the shift right away. And I am choosing to use this energy of the year. I usually stick with numerology. I mean, I'm doing it way more this year than I have in the past years, but I also have more knowledge and more just awareness around it. So when I do feel into the energy, I am connected to that, right? Just like if somebody was really into astrology, when they tune into the energy, they're going to feel more of that, right? Like the Capricorn season. So it's about tuning in, paying attention, and then you get to choose how you want to interact with that energy. And remember that things are constantly changing. So if there's like some resistance with the energy that is available, or it's a matter of like, do I have to, right? Like, do I have to use this energy? Do I have to be in this energy? Essentially, the energy is going to be there. But it goes back to your choice, because we have free will. We have timelines that we are choosing in every moment. And when you are shifting and committing to things, the energy is changing. So the energy available to you is changing and shifting. So this is another like kind of layer of why, like, when you consume things and you hear, okay, this is the energy available, know that like one decision can shift that. And that's why tuning in and kind of taking that time to reflect is going to be so important for you, because as you're shifting and changing, the energy available is shifting as well. Okay. So use this to your advantage. It doesn't have to feel dreadful. It doesn't have to feel like this is okay. Oftentimes people will say, welcome to Mercury retrograde. Okay, like there are some weird things that just kind of happen, but there's also a deeper layer of why those things happen. Mercury retrograde, there's like communication things, technology, people will tell you to back up your technology, all these things. Like, what if you don't? Like, what if you just decide, I don't need extra support in that, because I trust that whatever this energy kind of brings to me, even if this is like technological issues, or I don't back up my stuff and I do lose some things, like that's you're stepping into that decision by what you're paying attention to. When I think of Mercury retrograde, I think of things clearing out that I don't need. I don't think about like all the technical stuff. I don't think about backing up my things. I've never lost anything. I've never had much of like the communication issues. More so, like I've witnessed it. But I also, when I hear Mercury retrograde, I also think, okay, what needs to come up to be reworked? And what needs to come up for me to see like, oh, this isn't in alignment anymore. So it's really dependent on like, what is my perspective about this energy? What am I expecting to happen? That's a big one. Oftentimes people think things are going to go wild on a full moon. Things are going to go wild on Mercury retrograde. Like when Mercury's in retrograde. When you're expecting it to happen, you're calling in that energy and you're kind of calling in those experiences. So using that shift in timeline, that this availability to call in different experiences with different energy, use it to your advantage. Set intentions. So when you are aware of the energy and when you're when you're tapping into, let's say, energy updates, or if you're meditating yourself and you're feeling into the energy, okay, I'm aware of what energy is available. How do I want to use this? What is my intentions with this energy? So, like, right, there's a lot of blanket statements out there that can get you kind of in your head about what's going to happen in different time frames based on the energy. And we have to remember that the energy is just available to us, and we get to decide how we interact with that energy, and we get to decide when we want to step into different energy because there's so much available. Like, we're not limited to what we hear. We're not limited to what we can perceive, like what we can like intellectually consume. Okay. So taking that time to sit with yourself and feel into like what is resonant for me, what feels unique and specific. And this is where your intuition will come in, because I use a lot of numerology, but I'm not here telling you that that's the way to go, because I don't know for you. You might feel very different about it. And so for me, knowing that it's a 7-year, but I also have the energy of my personal year, which is a 3. I also have the energy of January, universal January, or collective, which is an 8. And then my personal month is a 4. So there's all these energies available. And if you kind of like consume it all and don't decide on what energy you want to step into, depending on maybe what you want to do that month, what your intention is that month, maybe you have a goal. If you just are like, oh my gosh, all this energy is available to me, like, you're not choosing to step in and like claim, not that you're claiming, but it's like, let me use this to my advantage. And it can almost feel like it's like that same feeling, like where you read all the personal development, but like you don't change anything. You continue into the same routines and habits. It's like the same thing. Like, all of the stuff, like all of the energy that's available to you. My crown is like vibrating. All the energy that's there, but you're not choosing. Like, you're not picking a different path. Not that it has to be different. It doesn't even have to feel drastic or different. It's the intention behind it. So for me, I just listed all those numbers. You don't have to know what they mean, right? I just list like 4 different things for numerology, which is 4 different energies available to me, let alone like the energy of my house, the energy of my relationships, the energy of like me waking up one day and pulling some cards. Like, there's so much more than that. But I look at numerology just to kind of see, like, these are the big overarching energies available for me. Which ones feel the most resonant for me to step into to do what I want to do this month? And this month, I'm setting a lot of foundations. I'm kind of like putting my head down and getting to work, and I'm also clearing the clutter. So which of those energies feel most resonant to really like harness what I want to do? And this doesn't have to be month by month. This could be day by day. For days, I look at things a little bit differently. I'll look at where the sun is in transit, and I look at the gates of human design. Okay. So everything, like, there's no right or wrong. It's really dependent on you. But I feel like the overarching message for this is related back to the 7-year, because it really does require you to kind of like reflect, like, what do I feel? Like, okay, maybe I consumed all of this and I know what's out there, but what do I feel and what do I want to choose? Where's my intuition guiding me? For me, it's like, okay, I know all of this is available, but what I'm really called to do is like clean up some of the clutter in my house and set some systems and foundations in my business. Like, those are the 2 big things that I feel really like, yes. Well, I'm in a personal month 4. which is really like that foundation. You kind of like put your head down and you get to work. So I'm really harnessing that energy in this month. I wake up and I call in, that energy, guide me to what is most like what's going to help me feel that foundation, that stability. I'm also in a personal year 3, which is about communication and kind of self-expression. So I'm kind of taking those 2 for this month because it's like I need to communicate what I'm intending to do, especially with my house, right? Like if I start doing all this stuff in my house and my whole family's like, what are you doing? I'm just helping along with some ease. Like I'm informing them. What are my intentions? I'm informing them how I want to spend my time. And it's setting this foundation for the months to come. And I'll also look into like the days and the weeks of like, okay, what feels most resonant like today? What feels most resonant this week? And I'll set like mini goals based off of that. So it's really like that 7 years, like the overarching theme of like, I have all of this available to me, but I don't know. I'm not gonna, nobody else can tell me my next step until nobody else can answer that for me. So it's coming back to myself. It's taking that time to reflect and saying, okay, this is all available, but what do I want to step into? And this is like anything in life. This has nothing to do with the new year. I just wanted to, I mean, it does because there's a ton of energy updates and there's a ton of, oh my gosh, new year stuff going around. And I wanted to bring back the power to you, bring back the knowing to you, and really encourage you to decide like, okay, I know what's available to me. I'm going to be open to what's available to me. But I know that at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, I get to sit with myself and I get to set the intention of what energy I'm stepping into. And that's where the power is. Like that is step 1. So I also know that this, I mentioned at the beginning, this time of year is like when you pick a word. And I was kind of like asking like what's the purpose behind this? And like why do we do this? Because I picked one for 2022. I might have picked one like a few years ago as well. But my take on this now is like feeling into the energy. So I kind of got a feel of the whole year's energy and just I reflected on last year and then I picked a word. But what I'm kind of doing with this is my word is in alignment with a lot of numerology, but I wrote down the word. And I think what I'm going to do is just kind of reflect as we go of how this word has impacted me, like how it's been showing up naturally. It's not something I'm going to force. Last year, my word was embody. I didn't really think about it much at all, like in doing stuff, but in reflection, it was like I was really called to embody my truths, embody my essence in different experiences. And last year was a 6 years. So it was like, it was really about embodying my truth while interacting with other people. In the moment, though, I wasn't like, how am I embodying my truth? Like, it was more of in reflection. So that's how I'm kind of like doing the word of the year is like, I'm choosing a word that it actually just came to me. It wasn't, I have 2. It wasn't like I sat down and intellectually thought about this word. It was, I received it. And for me, it was like, okay, support and expression. I know that there's going to be lessons around support. There's going to be opportunities for me to show that I am open to support. I know that because like it's an inner knowing, right? That word came to me for a reason. So as far as like planning, I'm not thinking about support. But I am open to knowing that there's going to be lessons, there's going to be opportunities to show that I am open for support. I'm accepting the support. And then there's going to be opportunities where I express myself instead of shut down. I express myself in new ways, but it's not something that I'm planning. It's like that. It's like after sitting with the energy and choosing what energy I'm stepping into, these words dropped in, and it's like this is the overarching theme, kind of. And maybe the pieces won't make sense as the year goes on, but in reflection, I'll be able to connect the dots. So I really just wanted to kind of empower you to take back that sense of, you know, ownership, and that sense of trust. Like there's a lot out there available for us, but we still get to decide. We still get to choose what we step into and how we interact with the energy. And it's all related to your intention and slowing down and taking that time to like feel into what is resonant for me. How can I use this to my advantage? And when there's like an energy that you know is available, but you might be feeling some resistance, like maybe you're like, oh, this means I'm going to have these conversations. And this means that, you know, maybe I'm going to set new boundaries around certain things. I find this with myself, like boundaries around my schedule, right? I'm focusing on kind of that 4 energy, that foundation, like get to work. I can't do that without solid boundaries around my time that I do want to sit and focus, which then requires communication, which takes me back to my personal year 3 and expressing why that is important to me. So it's like there might be these things that come up that it's almost like there's a line of like, I don't know, it might be fear, it could just be some resistance. You get to choose, am I ready to step into this? And knowing like if there's kind of this resistance or fear, that on the other side of that, it's expansion. It is growth. It is healing. Doesn't mean you have to do it. There's other energies available. There's other energies available to you. So sometimes we can get really caught up of like, this is all that we have. No, it's limitless. Know that the things that need to solve themselves will. It might be in a different way, especially if you're resistant to a specific energy. Know that that solution, that thing that needs to be worked out, will come through in a different energy too. So it's that coming back to trust, coming back to this power that we have of, you know, we're deciding how we want this to play out, even though like we don't know all the details. We can decide how we want to interact and experience the energy available to us. So I think that's pretty much what I have for that, but I am going to pull a few cards and leave you with a message. I was like specific of, I don't want to have this be like an energy update. So I just want this to be a message for you to further like feel further empowered and give yourself some trust and confidence to take that time, right? Like it's a 7-year, you're going to have you're going to have kind of like that push to, are we reading reverse? No. You're going to have that push to kind of have that solitude and reflection. So what I'm hearing is like, if you're somebody who is just ready to kind of like jump on it, jump on the bandwagon, there might be this pressure to just kind of slow down. And if things kind of feel like a little bit stumbly, then bumpy, then how can you just take a moment and say like, what am I just jumping on that might not be resonant? So, okay, the first few cards, I started with tarot, but the first few cards I have is Temperance. Let me get where I can see this. And we have the Sun and the Nine of Cups. I pulled this card for my year card. There's something on it, I see. So yeah, okay. So yeah, there's this rebalancing that's happening for us. And it's gonna feel a little bit shaky if it's coming back to that, taking the time, because the rebalance is really to illuminate what's available to you. And it's like there's gonna be no question for which, like, it's not gonna be gray when you take that time to reflect. There's this note of like, you don't have to step into it all. Like, you don't have to. There's like this overwhelm when we consume, and you're like, there's so much available. So there's like this balance of really like, what is it that you are consuming that you actually want to use, like, that's aligned with your intentions, that is gonna like illuminate the path, right? So the Sun card is really like, clear the clutter, because where you want to take your next step is going to be illuminated when you take that time to just kind of like decide, like, okay, I've received enough, and now I'm going to take some time to myself and choose what's resonant for me, what I want to step into. And when we take that time to like, okay, I've consumed all of this, but what's true for me? Like, what's resonant for me? What do I want to carry forward with my intentions, with my actions? Like, the path is going to be lit up for you. So clearing the clutter. Of course, like, these cards are so on point with the year, honestly. But like, focusing into this month is really this opportunity to shift your perspective, is what they're showing me. Is like, when you slow down and feel into what's true for you, you're gonna see like, oh, I've been looking at this a different way, and I didn't know that this was available right in front of me. It's like a lot of things are gonna show up that it's been kind of knocking at your door, and you just didn't see it because you had to go through these different perspectives. And now they're calling you back to really just balance that out and say, okay, you've consumed all of this. There's so much around consumption. So I don't know if that pertains to you, but there's so much around consumption that they're saying, it's all dark. It's not a clear path for you because you haven't taken the time to sit and decide, like, what do I want to choose to move forward? And they're saying, like, we're here to help, like, we're here to guide you. Like, the sun is ready to light up your path, but you gotta first say like which direction you want to go. So it's kind of like this commitment thing that's gonna bring out the balance. If you're trying to commit to so many things, like, you want, like, beginning of the year, there's this overwhelm they're talking about. And it's like, oh, I have all these ideas and I have all these goals. I have all these paths that I can see. And they're saying, like, just step onto one of the paths. You're going to get to all of them if that's what is truly in your highest good. But like, the sun is going to come down when you commit to one. So they're saying commit. And that's really going to shift your perspective and see, like, when you commit to one, it doesn't like block out the others. Like, you're going to look over and you're still going to be able to see what else is available. But right now you're choosing this. And they're saying that's really going to help streamline, and that's really going to help kind of like clear the clutter for you. We're going to pull a couple more cards. Couple more. Okay. We have the Sheep, which is act with fortitude and cooperation. So this is like not resisting. Yeah. Not resisting by like ignoring or by avoidance. So when you are committed, it's back to that commitment. We also have the Shark. We have the Dog, and we have the Cow. Okay. Ooh. I love this. So the shark is like this powerful warrior, and they're so psychic. They have these abilities to like sense things that like you wouldn't, like humans couldn't, right? And so it's this like force, this powerful force that can seem very much like a threat. But there's this grace to them that they can just kind of like sneak up and get what it is that they need. And then the cow is like this grace and unconditional love. Like they're willing to provide us with their milk. And they're still here regardless of how we treat them. And so there's this knowing of like, I have the ability to tap into what I desire and this ability to like guide myself there. But there's this grace, like, right? It's like this balance. Back to that temperance card, it's like this balance of like using your power, but there's a way to do it with grace. And it's coming back to being really disciplined. The dog is about like knowing they're here, like the dog has shifted from being like this wild animal to being domesticated and really showing us unconditional love. Right? So there's this commitment to that unconditional love with yourself and your truth. So finding that balance of there's working with the energy available to you, but also knowing like it's your responsibility to choose what you want to step into. It's your highest good to take that time to set those intentions and to decide, how am I using the energy available to me? What energy am I choosing? And what's my intention with it? I like this. There's a lot of like with animals sometimes. So yeah, I use the animal deck for a reason, I guess, because like they just have this knowing. Like a lot of animals will migrate, they'll hunt, they'll do all these things that it's like in their cellular, like it's in their DNA, like this knowing. And it's like almost like their path is just illuminated for them. They're not overthinking, they're not going through the motions because somebody told them to. It's like clearing the clutter and knowing, coming back to this inner knowing and allowing that information to drop in by committing to a specific path, energy, and knowing that things can change, things can shift. Because you commit to something and you're stepping into an energy today or right now, that's like choosing a timeline, right? That's choosing a path. But that doesn't mean like other energies aren't going to become available and that you can shift directions. And so trusting, it's like that trust and it's like that acceptance, like this feels right now. That might change. But it's that experience of stepping into that to gain that trust, to see, oh, things are going to be illuminated for me. More wisdom, more truths are going to drop in. And when I sit with those and I process those and I really lean in and kind of sit, like keep wanting to say sit with that, then you'll see other paths illuminated. You'll see other energies available to you. And that's where this kind of like prosperity and this optimism comes from. Like with the 9 of Cups, it's like, you know that there's always going to be more available. It's not that when you choose this path, it's going to come to an end and then I'm not going to have anywhere to go. Part of that commitment, part of choosing, is actually going to illuminate and provide more opportunities, more timelines for you to step into that are aligned with your highest good. There's like kind of like this stuck energy that we finished off 2022 with. And what they're saying is like, part of that is coming from not deciding, not acting. So yeah, the overconsumption of like, okay, what's available to you? Okay, but what are you choosing to step into? So I love these cards for us. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that wants to come through. The only other thing that is coming up is like where are you pouring from? So if you're feeling lack in an area, or if you're feeling overwhelmed in an area of your life, there's the balance there that can come through. So if you're feeling overwhelmed in one area of your life, that's where you're actually experiencing abundance. And so setting the intention to even that abundance out in your life, and that's going to open up more abundance for you and expansion, because you're going to see, oh, when I balance this out and when I pour maybe from this cup into this cup, I'm actually available to receive more. And that's one way of kind of clearing out the clutter. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave you at that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, I just wanted to send you off with some empowerment to really decide how you want to feel in every moment, or in each new day, new week, new month, new year, however it is that you feel like you are really setting yourself up, and just decide. And if you don't know, then take some time and feel into that, because you will be able to kind of feel out what feels best for you, and know that if you decide on something and you're going along and you decide to change your mind, that is the beauty of having this choice and being able to step into different energies. So again, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it on social media. You can tag me. I am at Hermit and Heal on Instagram. And I will talk to you all next time on the Intuition Playground.